Hey everybody, it's Judy Clock, your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Middletown, Virginia. And today I'm coming to you with a fun fold. I call it the Z panel fun fold. And let me show you why I call it that. Let me add my other camera. Here we go. And let's go live to my desk. So it's a normal Z fold card, and a Z fold just means it's kind of looks like a Z, and then I've added a panel to the front of it. So it's a pretty basic Z fold. Let me see, this is not the best lighting today for some reason. Okay, that's all right. So we're going to use a couple of different stamp sets because we are going to make our own background paper, kind of our own designer series paper. And to create the background paper, I've got a piece of basic white here. I've cut it down to 5 1/4 by 8 1/2, and I am going to use images from the Swirled Designs stamp set. So I'm going to use this round circle, this little scattered dot images, and these flowers. And I'm going to use 3 different colors of ink. I'm going to use Bubble Bath, Pretty in Pink, and Melon Mambo. So I'm going to start out with our biggest image first. So that's going to be the round circle. We're going to start out with that, and I'm going to stamp that in our Bubble Bath because that is what our card base is. So I am just going to ink up my stamp head and randomly stamp this big circle all over. You can get some on, you can get some off. It really doesn't matter because it's all going to look fine in the end. So just ink it up, stamp that on there. If they overlap, that's fine. And we're going to fill in some white space with our other stamps. So this is a lot of fun doing your own background paper. And if you've never done it, this is a great technique. It's great for beginners if you don't have a lot of paper or a lot of paper that will work with, what you have. Sometimes we don't have designer series paper in the colors we need. This is a great way. Just kind of go and make your own. All right, I'm going to maybe add one more here. All right, so I've done that. And I'm going to close this up for now. And I'm going to pull in our Melon Mambo. Now for this one, this is a pretty bright color. So I'm going to actually stamp off. So we're going to use our 2nd generation stamping. And I've got that scattered dot image. I'm just going to ink it up. I'm going to stamp it off, then stamp it on my paper. And we're just going to repeat as often as you want. Try to vary up how you hold the stamp so the dots don't all go in the same direction. I was trying to think of the word. And I'm just going to, again, just kind of put these wherever I want them. The beauty of it is there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It's just whatever you think looks good. So you can, like I said, it's done when you think it looks good. I'm going to add maybe just a few more. Maybe a little bit more down there. And maybe just a little bit more here. Having too much fun with this. All right, that looks good. So we're going to do that. We're going to close that up. I'm going to bring in my Pretty in Pink. And I'm going to stamp those little tiny flowers. There were like 4 little flowers all together in a row. I'm just going to stamp these wherever I want in some of that white space. Try to cover up some of that white space. Again, it's whenever you think you have enough, you are good to go. So I'm just going to have fun with this. Just put these wherever I want. And you can't really go too crazy because there's just so much space on here. All right. I'm going to say that's done. Our background is done. Now what I want to do is I'm going to cut this into 3 pieces. I'm going to cut it from left to right. The first piece is going to be 1 7/8. Okay, and on the back of this, I'm going to mark this with a left, meaning that's going to be my leftmost piece. I'm going to cut this again at 1 7/8. And I'm going to mark this on the back with an M for middle. That way, as I go across my card, I kind of have a seamless design, okay? And then I'm going to cut my last piece at 4. And we can do the same thing. This is going to be our rightmost piece. It's pretty easy to tell because it's so much bigger than the other one, but I'll just put an R on the back so I know this is the right piece, that's my middle piece, or center piece, that's my left piece. So it's, if they were all the same size, it would really make a big difference. This one being so much bigger, you kind of know where this one's going to go. But for these two, it helps to have that left and middle on there, or left and center, whatever you want to call it. So I am going to put these over here for now. I'm also going to stack them up, left, middle, center, or left, middle, right. And then I'm going to bring in my scoring tool. And we want to score our cardstock. This is a standard 8.5. I'm sorry, 5.5 by 8.5. We're going to score it at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. That's what's going to give us our Z fold. All right. We're going to fold the 4 1/4 just like a regular card. Okay, so we're folding that over. It's just like a regular card. We're going to burnish that fold. Now at the 2 1/8 inch fold, we're going to fold this back over the front of our card. Okay. And that is how our Z fold works. Now later on, we're going to add, this is a piece of bubble bath that's 4 1/4 by 3 1/4, and we're going to put that on, and that's what's going to become our panel. But for now, let's go ahead. We've got this. We're going to put this piece here. We can open up our card so it's flat. Okay, our left piece is going to go all the way on the left, to the left of that 2 1/8 of an inch score line. Our middle piece is going to go between the two score lines, between the 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. And then the big piece is going to go to the right of that 4 1/4 inch score line. All right, so let's go ahead and put these panels in place. I'm actually going to start with my biggest panel. I'm going to glue these down. It gives me just a little bit of extra time to get everything in place. But I need to send out a birthday card for next week, and my friend's favorite color is pink. So I hope she'll like this card, because heaven knows it's pink. I'm going to throw a little bit of color on the front of it with that. We're going to use Woolly Friends sheep set to do the front panel. Okay. But this, I really like this. I love kind of doing my own background paper. Let me know, have you ever done your own background paper? Do you like doing it? I think you can get some really pretty designs, and no two cards are ever exactly the same. All right, we've got that. Let's go ahead and stamp the front of our card. I forgot to cut one piece. You know me, I always forget to cut one piece of paper. But let's work on the front of our card. So I'm going to, for the front of our card, we're using Woolly Friends. We're going to use our Woolly Friends stamp set. That is this one, and this is the optional class I'm teaching at Creativity in Bloom. And today is the very last day to register. So if you're interested, go to my Stampin' with Crafty Clock Facebook page under the events section. Click on Creativity in Bloom, the red carpet experience, and register. You have just 5 more spots left. All right, I'm going to stamp the grass along the bottom. Okay. Now, the grass is kind of narrow, so I'm actually going to kind of stamp 2 rows just to kind of make it a little bit more intense. Then I want to stamp the flowers. 3 tulips. Going to stamp these on the right. And as long as I have my green still out, I'm going to go ahead and stamp that fill-in image for the leaves in green. So this is a 2-step stamping. We're just going to put right over. Okay, not too bad. A little bit off, but not too bad. And then we're going to come here. Let's open up our Pretty in Pink for a minute. And we're going to fill in those tulips with some Pretty in Pink. There we go. All right. That's it for now. I think we're done with these 2 colors. Let's move those out of the way. Now I'm going to stamp the standing sheep because we have one that looks like he's jumping, and this one we're going to do standing sheep. I'm going to stamp him in Memento. If I could find that stamp pad that was literally just here. I just found it. You know, who else has the craft room gremlin that visits, excuse me, and just moves stuff without you knowing it? All right, we're going to stamp the sheep to the left of the flowers. Okay, and while we have our black out, we're also going to stamp the head. And I've got a little trick for you, because this is kind of a small piece, but I'm going to show you how you can get it into your punch easy peasy. I'm going to stamp the head. Okay, that's it. I do also, while I have the black out, we're going to stamp a butterfly. We're going to stamp that right there. And then we're going to stamp "You Are Simply Fabulous." Okay, I'm trying to make sure I stamped it a little bit crooked last time. So I kind of put it crooked on my block, and see, it's crooked again, but that's okay. We're going to say that was intentional. Call it a win. All right, next, I'm going to open up my bubble bath, and we're going to fill in the sheep. There are 2 things to fill in. One, we can fill in his big body, and you'll notice I put a directional arrow on the stamp, the fill-in stamp, so that when I go to stamp it and fill in this body, I will know which way is up and which way will match. And it's very, once you have that arrow there, it'll make it much easier to always get a good 2-step stamping. That arrow really helps you position it. Then we've got this little tiny, teeny stamp, and that's to kind of fill in that little tuft of hair on his head. So we're going to fill that in. Again, we're stamping it with Pretty in Pink. All right. And then I need to cut one more piece of basic white, and we're going to stamp a happy birthday. In that, I thought I had some basic white out. Oh, I do. Let's see. Let's see how close this is to the size I need. I need it to be 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. That is almost 4 1/4. All right, by 3 1/4. This is going to be for the inside. Okay. There. All right, and then from the Reason to Celebrate stamp set, I took the happy and the birthday. So we're going to stamp that. We're going to stamp that in Melon Mambo for the inside, just because I like the Melon Mambo. I just think it's a fun color. If I could find the stamps that I just had, the ink pads that I just had, literally just had them. Here it is. I'm losing it, folks. All right, and we're going to stamp Happy Birthday. Okay, ooh, I didn't like the way that came out. So paper has 2 sides. Let's try that again. Much better. All right. Now we are done with our stamping. We need to punch out our little sheep's head. So if you have a piece that might be difficult to stick in. This one actually isn't going to be so hard because I do have enough. But if you, let's say you didn't have enough, and let's say I wanted to stick it in from the other side, I'm going to stick this piece of Post-it note on there. I'm going to stick this into, let's put this all the way down because she's kind of close to the bottom. Okay. Let's go in from this way. Here. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do this just so I can show you how this works. Here we go. We are going to stick this on this Post-it note. And then we're going to use this to stick it into our stamp, our punch. That'll help us hold it in place. There we go. So if you ever have a piece that's small, but you still want to use it in the punch, just stick it on the edge of a Post-it note and it'll go into your punch. It'll give you enough to hold on to and you can punch it out. That is the tool tip for the day. All right. Now we're ready to assemble. All right, we're going to go ahead and put this on our front panel. Remember, this was 4 by 3, 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. And all of these measurements will be in the new library that I've developed. It will be for email subscribers only. So you have to be on my email to get access to the inspiration library. And it will have like a inspiration sheet with all the measurements for this particular fun fold on there. And I was looking for my liquid glue. And again, sometimes I just like to make sure I have a little bit of extra time to make sure it's in place, so I'll use my liquid glue. Okay. Upside down. There we go. All right, you can just kind of use that to slide it where you want to. That looks good. We're going to put the head on with a dimensional or two, and I might even put like a mini dimensional up towards the top. Okay, if you wanted to, you could add a cowbell, like a bell for her, or you could add a bow. I think I'm just going to leave it plain for today. All right, now let's add this to the front of our card. So we just want to put dimensionals along the left side because we're going to have that hang over, excuse me, onto the card front. So I'm going to kind of put my finger. I don't want any dimensionals to kind of go over where my finger is. So I'm going to kind of stick them there. Okay, so I kind of know. 2 there and 2 there. Okay. Oh dear, this one didn't come out right. Sometimes the backing gets stuck. There we go. There we go. We're good to go. Let me close up I did burnish my folds, but they're not really staying very well closed today, are they? All right, so I'm going to stick my panel over the front of my card. Okay. That looks good to me. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it now. I want to make sure that this piece is going to stay hidden by the front panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my panel. I am going to lay this over that front panel. I'm going to kind of put it a little bit so it's not exactly even on this edge, a little bit in, and I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back here, if I can get this undone. Okay. I'm going to make sure that kind of stays even top and bottom and make sure it's kind of stays even. And then we're going to close this. Okay, we're going to close this kind of over that. Open it quick. Make sure this is straight. You still have that liquid glue. You can straighten it out a little bit. And now when we go to close it, that white panel is hidden The inside is hidden by that front panel on our Z fold. So that is today's fun fold. Let me show you a few different ways that you can do this. So for this one, we obviously made our own background paper, kind of fun to do. Here's one, same idea. We've used designer series paper. We've got a little focal point. I've kind of added some wink of Stella on our stamped floral image. I don't know if you could see that. Same thing, you've got that piece of paper and that white that's hidden by the front panel. Excuse me. This is another one, a little bit more masculine. I've kind of used some masculine colors with that Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock. And these are from the Banner Sayings stamp set. It says, cue the confetti, here's to you, celebrate, happy birthday. So I know sometimes it's hard to do cards for the guys in our life. So that's a pretty nice card. This is the Nature Walk designer series paper. And I've embossed this front piece with one of the new embossing folders. I forget what it's called. Lines. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to put that in the description down below, what that particular embossing folder is called. I thought I had it over here somewhere. No, I had the paper somewhere, but now of course it's not within reach. Then I wanted to use another stamp set that I got called, I think it's called Garden Swing. But it was bigger than what I did the other way. So I made it go I did it the long way. So I cut this to 4 1/4 by 11. I scored it at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. Right. And then I just put this first panel, just this one, I embossed it. It's kind of hard to see on the black, but I did emboss it with just that first half. And then I just stamped my image. I wanted to keep it simple. So I just stamped the image in the black. This is better. I don't know what's better, what's not better. I stamped the image in black, and then I stamped pillows, just added that little pop of color. I stamped these in Flirty Flamingo, and then just like fussy cut them out to put on the porch swing. So again, kind of really a simple one, just a straight black. I don't really have any sentiment in there, so you can use this for anything at all. But again, just another way to do it. If your image is kind of too big for, a portrait style Z-fold, panel Z-fold, you can do it in landscape. So just to kind of show you another variation. And then this is definitely more of a wow card. This is a fun fold within a fun fold. So here we've got our standard panel Z-fold, right? But then you open it up and there is another little fun fold. There's another little folded card inside. So for this one, we used designer series paper. We stamped and we fussy cut some of the hearts. On this white, I've embossed. Can you see that it's got that new heart embossing folder on there? And we've just used a little bit more of the designer series paper on the inside and just a little sentiment, sending you hugs and kisses. Happy Valentine's Day. So that is definitely more of a stepped up way to do this particular fun fold. So all of these variations on the dimensions for each of them will be in my inspiration library. So we've got our portrait ones, just the standard panel Z fold. Then we've got our panel Z fold with another little surprise fold inside. And we've got our landscape panel Z fold. That's it for me, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by. Let me just move my videos again for a little bit. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this fun fold card. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've made this one. And I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.